It's time for Inside BBI with John and Eric live. All right, well, welcome back to Inside BBI with John and Eric. We are live on day one of Giants training camp. Oh my gosh, Eric, we're here. The off season, all the talk, all the stuff. We've gone through it. We've made it here, buddy. You've made it here at the very last second tonight, which is good.
I need this.
All right,
I need this
what you
desperately.
drinking? What you got? What it's called?
Oh, it's that Independence Harbor Ale again. I desperately need a beer night. What a day! You ever have one of those days where everything just gets thrown at you? Just everything that can possibly happen gets thrown at you at one day. Well, that was today for me, and it wasn't fun. I got blocked from my own website because the host blocked my IP for suspicious behavior, so I couldn't even get on my own website. It's a whole long story. No one wants to listen to this, but it's been one of those days.
Jesus, I guess so. Well, then I won't complain about my day. I have it's by Steel Hands Brewing. It's a tropical IPA, just something different that I found, and I'm gonna give it a try. Part of that, like $120 that I spent on beer last week, so we'll see how it goes. But
Where are you getting this money for all this beer? Damn it!
Well, I do have a day job. I'm it's like, in fact, the president of the company actually watched our interview. He was telling me today he was not happy with the amount of ads that we're playing. So if you notice that too, I don't control the ads on where they are, but I did go back into the video today and I went into the ad piece itself. I deleted out a number of them where they were going to run because I noticed that there was a lot running every few minutes. I didn't like that at all. Obviously we're monetized. We want to grow. I'm not even going to get into all the other crud with it. I've spent a decent amount of money for different pieces that we use to do this, but we want to monetize it and stuff. But there are other ways I think down the road we can do, because I'm not a big fan of having ad after ad after ad.
Well, we don't have any control of that. Anyone who's been on YouTube in the last year or 2 years knows it's getting worse and worse and worse with YouTube. That's not us. That's YouTube.
Right.
I can't watch a history thing. I can't watch anything on politics. I can't watch anything on my wife's cooking shows. Without an ad appearing every 5 minutes now on YouTube. That's just the way YouTube is. We have no control over that whatsoever.
There are other things we can do when we do bigger shows. I mentioned, I'm not shilling, but when I mentioned the super chat thing, I don't want to do it on small things. I don't want you to do that. We could do membership stuff, make it really small, and then I could just get rid of the ads completely. You guys tell me down the road, but for now, we're monetized and the ads are there, and I'll try to, if I think it's a lot, I'll try to get rid of them. But I only know when I go back and look, I have no control over where they are. I can just delete some of them out.
Yeah.
So that being said, Eric, holy crap. It was day one of camp. We talked.
Yep, wait. Oh. Gotta love Scattaboo. Gotta love Scattaboo. He's already fired up for the first day of training. I think people are going to love him. So
I think so. Now, we talked last night real quick. Andrew Thomas is on the pup, so we covered that for everybody who's heard. That's really the big one. There really isn't anything else that's surprising. Malik Neighbors is practicing, so I'm going to let you start kind of some things that you want to get to right away and what you saw today.
Well, and let's be clear, you and I were not at camp.
We're not at camp.
We're not at camp. So we're basically compiling data and videos and reports from other people, and also listening to interviews. Today, Joe Shane addressed the press with Dable. They were together. And then afterwards, it was Malik Neighbors, Dexter Lawrence, and Russell Wilson addressed the media. And today was basically summarize this is when the Giants start off any offseason period, like the OTAs and now the training camp, they start off on a very short field, not the full field, because they don't want to open things up because they don't want players to start pulling their hamstrings and all these soft tissue injuries before they've gotten acclimated to training camp again. It's the new wussified NFL, but that's the way it is. You can say it's smart. It probably is. I don't know. But so today they did everything in the red zone. You're not going to see, anything outside of that. They're not in full pads yet. So it was kind of like OTAs a little bit, but they were allowed to put their hands on each
Right.
other now.
Right.
So I want preface all of that with those comments. So again, you're not going to get a real good idea of the running game because they're not in full pads. So it's going to be more, again, this guy caught a pass, this guy threw a bad pass, this defensive back made a good play. And on top of that, what I've tried to tell people repeatedly over the years is when you go to training camp, unless you've got really good inside the fence positioning, you can't see a whole heck of a lot sometimes, and you only have one set of eyes.
Sure.
So whenever you've been to training camp, there's 90 players, and you've got to sort of focus on one of those players or two of those players at a time. So you miss most of what's going on because you're focused on one. That's why the 1-on-1 drills with the offensive and defensive linemen, those drills that they usually do in camp are really good. And anything that, again, you can focus on the 1-on-1, the cornerback and the defensive back and that type of thing. Running game is always the most difficult in linebacker play because it's hard to even see them. So if you've noticed, if you're listening as a fan and you always wonder, how come we're not hearing anything about the linebackers? And I'm not talking about the outside edge rushers.
Right.
It's because no one can see it. So to be honest with you, no one's going to come out there and say, well, I didn't talk about how Micah McFadden did or Bobby Okereke did because they can't see it. And you're not going to hear, you notice you haven't heard a peep out of how the running backs are doing running the football. You hear about them catching, like Cam Scadaboo today apparently was very active catching the football. He caught a touchdown pass from Jameis Winston. That was kind of sweet because you saw the natural hands, immediately went upfield. There was some contact with a player, but Cam's one of those guys who can run through contact. I liked what I saw in that play because he caught it fast, right to the end zone. Sure. And whether he would have been tackled there, we don't know. I'd like to think he wouldn't have been, unless you're rooting for the defense in that situation. But so I just wanted to get all that out there first, just because this is the first day. They're going to build and build and build, and finally we'll get to the full pads, and then we'll have something to talk about. So I just wanted to put that.
And I saw Tracy on a swing pass. Yep. What I liked about it was where the ball was placed, and that's the big thing that we've talked about. It's making it easier for these guys to catch the ball and continue where they're going. No stopping and catching it and then having to turn. It was all in motion. And again, like you said, though, it is a lot easier to do it right now when there isn't a fear that you're going to get absolutely depleted when you go to make a catch. So some of this it's really about, we don't want to see a bunch of drops in easy drills. If there's drops in easy drills, this is going to be a lot harder when somebody's really playing you physical. Sticking right now just to the offense.
Should we briefly mention for those who don't know, everyone practiced except 3 players, and they're all on the various injury lists. So, and as you mentioned, Andrew Thomas, still recovering from the Liz Frank. Joe Shane didn't seem worried about it. He said, no, they've got a plan. You and I and other Giants fans are going to get nervous about this because he's so important. The other was Eric Gray. And Eric Gray, I don't have making the team as it is. And the more time he misses, he's really going to be in trouble. Now, he might end up in the practice squad, but he's got a knee injury. I don't know the severity of it. Obviously, it's not real serious, or they wouldn't even deal with this. But he's out. And then Victor Dimukache, the outside linebacker who tore his pec early on in the spring, he's on the non-football injury list. But everybody else on the roster, which is a big deal because we had guys like Runyon on the offensive line that didn't practice in the OTAs. Even Van Roten was there. Cam Scadaboo wasn't practicing. Darius Alexander wasn't practicing. They're all back. So everybody's back practicing. Malik Neighbors.
Yes.
Malik Neighbors. The only thing about Malik is, and I was afraid of this, he mentioned in his interview today that they might have to manage the toe, and that surgery at some point next offseason might be in the cards. He seemed to suggest that. He wasn't real clear. It was vague. The report said that, and then I went back and looked at what he said, and I'm like, well, he's not being very clear about what he means by that.
I kind of took it, and again, I'm doing the same as you. I'm reading into the way it was said that at some point he might have to, because he's been dealing with it since college. So it may not be this coming off season, but in a couple of years he might have no choice. But if you're already thinking of that now,
Why didn't you get it done with and handled? Is what I don't know.
I'm hoping when they say they've got it, and they've made very clear they have a plan to manage this, which I think is going to be similar to last year. He's not going to practice probably on Fridays like he did
Right.
most of the season, and they're maybe they got some specially designed shoes, whatever. But it's going to be something they're clearly monitoring going forward. But it didn't stop him from being day one, and he's going up and catching passes, contested passes in both corners of the end zone I saw. So let's start there, though. The quarterback play overall, there were some reports that it was really spotty. The offense was spotty until Russell Wilson kind of brought them about. My first thought is I'm not really surprised with that because every year we've heard defenses are always a bit more prepared than the offense when they come in. And Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston and Jackson Dart have no experience with this offense other than the little bit in the OTAs.
Yeah, and remember, it's the first day, and it's all in the red zone, and it's all congested in there. And so don't make too much. Not that it continues, it's a different thing. But we weren't seeing things like this either. Watch this. Now I want to play that again. So the reason I wanted to show that a couple times is Wilson looks to his right to look off the safety, immediately comes back to his left and throws a dime. Daniel Jones has ruined that word, hasn't he? Dime. He throws a dime, throws a perfect pass to Wan'Dale Robinson, who you and I wondered if Wilson's going to even throw that much to him, but he did there. And I made the comment on the website today, and maybe it's too harsh, but that's not the kind of play Daniel Jones makes. We never saw a lot of Daniel Jones look right, quickly come off and throw. There's no hesitation. If you notice, there was no hesitation whatsoever, and it was good coverage, but it was a perfect pass. So to me, that stood out. But to support what you were saying, so a lot of the reporters said today it was kind of sloppy. There's the 7-on-7 drills, which are always easier than the 11-on-11 drills. So the other thing I want to make sure everyone realizes when you're reading these guys on X or Twitter is some will only cover the 11-on-11 plays. And that's why you see the numbers sometimes vary, where somebody says, well, Jackson Dart was, 8 out of 12. And then you see another one where he says he's 3 out of 9. It's because there's some reporters won't cover the 7-on-7 and some will cover the 11-on-11. And even in that case, you notice that there's always a discrepancy because they miss plays and things like that. So Jackson threw a couple touchdowns in the 7-on-7s, but the ones that everyone's focused on was the pick 6 that he threw to Nick Jones, the cornerback, who most people don't even know who that guy is. He was a Kansas City practice squad player that we picked up in January. And Jackson told The Athletic after practice, he said, it wasn't that he didn't see him. He said he thought he could squeeze the ball in there, and he's still getting used to the speed of these defensive backs in the NFL. And he's saying that about Nick Jones, who's a small, fast guy, but that shows you the learning curve. It's a different speed here. And Joe Shane talked about that in the press conference today. He kind of emphasized a couple times that Jackson Dart's got a lot to learn, and I think they like what they've seen with him. And I have a sense, and you do too, that Brian Daboll really likes him. But it's also clear that he's not ready for prime time, or at least they don't think he's ready, anywhere close to ready for prime time. So it's a good thing that they do have Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston here, so they don't have to force the issue.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious based on some of the verbiage used today.
Yeah,
that Joe Shane basically said the Kansas City model is really not a bad one to have.
Right.
If the coaches think at some point he can play, that's on them. He goes, but there's nothing wrong with it. And I think learning and not rushing a guy makes sense. I think we're going to see kind of what we talked about is it's really the battle for 2. If Dart can light it up, he might be able to ascend to 2, but I don't think the Giants are in any hurry to put him there for a number of reasons. 1, to make sure his development. 2, the fan piece that's going to be like the second Russell struggles. Now, the one thing they were very clear about is Russell Wilson's the starter of the team.
Yeah, and they want to tap down expectations. Say they even love Jackson Dart, and they think he's going to start the year, which I don't think is going to happen. But even say they anticipate that, they don't want to build that expectation up level now. So they wouldn't have said anything different today, even if they felt that way, because you don't want to do that. When Jackson Dart came out on the field today, fans there were already cheering for Dart. So it's already begun.
Right.
We're in the first practice, so they're already sort of like, we want Dart, we want Dart. You got to tap that down, and I hope Giants fans are smart enough about realizing that might not be a good thing to put him in here that early, because one thing you don't want to do is quote unquote ruin him. You don't want to turn him into a basket case too early. So let Russell Wilson start the season, find out how competitive the Giants are with him. Russell Wilson may surprise us. The Giants may start off fairly competitive despite the schedule. We'll have to see. Let's see how it goes. But like they said, when he's ready, he's ready. So there was other play here. Like, here's a good one from Dart, I thought. So on the beginning of this, I don't know if you can see it. It's cut off, but it's a bad snap.
Yeah.
So you can see a bad snap. But he didn't panic. He didn't panic.
Who was the center? Because that's a second. Is that second team? He looked like a second. He was with some of the second team players.
I don't know. I don't know if you can see it in the shot. Let me bring it up again. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
No, it's not in the shot unless we can get it.
You got Scattaboo.
Cool. Wait a minute. 60. There's 53. Oh, that's defense. I can't see it. We're not going to be able to see it.
There was like 71 and 70. We're both 65. I'm wondering if it's Van Roten was the center.
Yeah, or it could be, again, remember they got four real centers on the team, so it could be any one of those. Apparently there was a Dart had a botched exchange as well too. And again, remember, he wasn't, and a lot of these college quarterbacks, he didn't play under center at Ole Miss. So he's got to get used to that. So one of the things, we had our great Phil Simms interview last night. One of the plays we didn't bring up was the Dallas losses in '85.
I thought,
and one was that botched center snap that cost them that game. So that, that's that. Even guys that have played like Simms did, we take that for granted sometimes, but he's got to get used to that. So
I will say, you rightfully pointed out on BBI, BigBlueInteractive.com, for those who don't know, when there were a bunch of people were talking and there was posts, and Bobby Skinner had posted some stuff, and you said, it seems like Bobby's had an issue with the Giants drafting Dart all along. So some of his criticisms, which have been there even before the play, kind of maybe, and I don't know, I'm not want to put words in your mouth. I take it with a grain of salt. I'm going to say take it with a grain of salt. I have seen some, and he does seem to be very negative on a lot of stuff. He's like, he was really late on that throw. And I'm like, it's day one and he's a rookie. I'm like, cause just kind of calm it down.
Are you talking specifically about Bobby?
Bobby Skinner. I feel like his posts are a little negative. I'm going to say
I haven't seen enough of his commentary on Dart. But I have seen him. He was on a really good interview with another. It wasn't his show. It was on another, and they were discussing Jackson Dart. And he just seemed very negative to me, and it almost seemed like he wasn't. Again, I don't know this. It just seemed like he wasn't supportive of the pick, and you've got to be very careful in that. Again, you my position going in. I was fine if they didn't draft a quarterback, and I said the longer they went. So, but once you get the guy, you got to be fair, and you also got to understand the process at that point. Rookie quarterbacks are rookie quarterbacks for a reason. The Jaden Daniels thing, that's why Jaden Daniels was so brilliant last year. That doesn't happen normally with a rookie. That's not a normal season for a rookie quarterback. We can only hope that Jackson plays like that in his second year. That would be fantastic. That's how good. And I don't think a lot of people thought Jaden Daniels was going to come out like that. I mean, I thought a lot of people, even as fans, would be hard pressed to say he's going to get the Commanders into the NFC Championship game. I don't think anyone saw that coming. And there were things in his game that he got better at in the pros than he was in the college. But that's another subject altogether. Getting back to the Giants. So again, good day because there were no injuries that we know of. No one got hurt. They don't have a lot of players on the injury list, which is good. It was a little rusty on offense. With the two big takeaways I thought today were this. Evan Neal was getting first team reps at right guard. And that's a big deal because he was playing left guard mostly that the media saw in the OTAs. Now, the offensive line coach did say that he was getting some right guard snaps in the OTAs, but those weren't the ones that the press saw. So he and Van Roten were switching off at right guard. And then Tay Banks and Cordell Flott were switching off at the other corner spot. And based on all the different commentary I saw, Tay had a pretty decent day. He knocked away 2 passes, but one of them, again, he didn't get his head around on. So that's
right.
that thing. Now, I did see an interview though with his defensive back coach and with Tay, and they were talking about technique on things. And sometimes they are taught to play the ball, play the man, and sometimes they're taught to play the ball. And he was talking about there is a technique at one point. You do go for the hands, and that's what he did.
You watch, you turn and face the hands. When they go up, you go up.
And so he swatted the ball out of Malik Neighbors' hands. And so it wasn't a great pass. I think that was from Wilson. It wasn't a great pass, but he knocked it away.
Yeah.
And Cordell Flott is, we should say he's going to press him. So that's good in 2 ways. Number one, that keeps Malik Neighbors on his toes, but it also prepares Cordell to be ready if he has to go in there and play against real high caliber players. So it's a good situation for them. I'd like them to win it because he's the first round draft pick, but it's a good situation for them to be in. Was there anything else that caught your eye with like big picture stuff like that?
I think the Evan Neal. You brought the Evan Neal up already, and I think it's important. You and I both, we sort of kind of assumed or kind of thought, okay, did the Giants put him on the left side right now in the OTAs and some of the minicamp stuff because of possible issues with his ankle? Because both guard spots technically were open,
right?
And maybe they didn't do it on the right side because that's more of an open spot, period, right? Runyon's was open because he was injured and he wasn't there, but we knew when he comes back, he's the guy. On the right side, Van Roten's technically the guy, but that spot is open. I'm sure the Giants really would love for somebody else to win it and let Van Roten be the backup guard, backup center. They want his experience, and he can come in and play. That's really what I think he's brought back for.
Yeah.
But to see him on the right was it kind of dispelled our thought that they purposely just kept him on the left. Now he's playing both sides.
Yeah, Optimus, he played left tackle, right tackle, and I believe left guard at Alabama.
Yeah.
So most of his, if I have that accurate about left guard, he played most of his snaps in college on the left side. I just hope the Giants aren't doing an old Josh Azudu thing. Just get him focused in one spot. I'd like, in a perfect world, to me, Evan Neal seems like your prototypical right guard. In the old NFL, maybe this has changed. You had your right guard was sort of your power guy, and your left guard was the guy that you had pulling more and stuff like that. So,
I think with the way defenses play now, I actually don't think
that you're right. You're probably right.
But I don't think you're wrong. Let me rephrase because that sounded like I was just saying you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong. I think you're right. No, but that doesn't mean I'm right either. But I think you're right in very specific situations. I think San Francisco, Baltimore for sure.
Yeah.
The way they play, the size of their line, they keep very big guys. And I think they go power to one side, and it's the side that the quarterback can see to because you can just run that way and you can just push. Everybody on their line's big. San Francisco went big on there, but their more athletic guard was on the left side. Their more power guard is on the right side. So I think that's true. I don't know that's true with a lot of other teams, though, where they're spreading the gaps out between some of the off linemen a little bit more, and they both have to move some.
Right.
And the Giants aren't going to play a power running game in either side. They're really going to be more of a pick and choose.
Right, and we talked about that in another podcast. Yeah,
I think it's more concerning for me would be I don't care which. I think he can practice at either guard spot. I don't think it really matters except for hand placement. Right. I think it's really though the comfortability of the guy to my side, and if Thomas is going to be out a little bit. Right. And we assume he's going to be out a little bit in training camp. Then I want the more veteran, consistent Illuminor right now. No, I want a Illuminor for Neal. I want a Illuminor right next to Neal so that Neal can, and then whoever's playing tackle, Runyon's fine. He can play with whoever's the tackle next to him. I think Neal needs to
But
be
I
next
thought you
to.
were saying, I misunderstood. I thought you were also saying you wanted a veteran like Runyon next to Hudson if Thomas
Well,
is
yeah,
not good.
I was literally,
Yeah.
I didn't think I was focusing on
Right.
Neal.
No,
And
I get it now. That's why I
yeah,
was. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I think for him to be more comfortable, he can't worry about what the tackle's doing, and with Illuminor, you don't have to worry about that. You just have to follow what, and Illuminor can lead him a little bit. But if you put Hudson out there, a guy at left tackle, he's a good, serviceable guy. But the Giants
We
ate him
don't
up.
know yet. We don't know. We don't know what we have in Hudson. He could suck.
True,
He could
that's
be.
true.
He
That's
could
true.
be. He could take a step forward than what he did in Cleveland. They seem high on him. So he could be better. But like for instance, today Kayvon Thibodeau had a sack, and I was like, "Yay!" And they said it was James Hudson. I'm like, "Oh," so I'm like, it's one of those things. When one side's good, someone's got to give up the play, and that's just training camp because you're always like, "Yeah, Malik Neighbors got a touchdown, but damn it, he beat." The defensive back. So that just comes with the territory. Hudson's going to be a really important player for us if Andrew Thomas is out. So this is going to be, and I hate to say this, but given the quality of the pass rushers that the Giants have, I think we're going to see a consistent theme this summer that Brian Burns got a sack. It was against Hudson. Thibodeau got a sack. It was against Hudson. I think we're going to see that, and then people are going to start going ballistic, and it might be justifiable, but it also may be the pass rushers that we have are just so damn good against somebody like a Hudson. But the Giants have unfortunately, they have a track record, this regime, of being very stubborn with the offensive line. There was extenuating circumstances with Neal with the injuries, but they didn't move Neal for the longest time. Ezeudu, they kept trying to play at left tackle. We saw also Ezeudu they would put in the game when he had a neck injury, and you'd be like, why are you putting him back into the game with a neck injury? They just seem very stubborn up front. And you said it early, and I don't want to get into it again, but you said put Illuminor at left tackle. Well, that's what they did 3 games later, a month later, after you said it's the obvious move. Why don't you do that? So they're a little stubborn. So I hope they're not stubborn. If somebody like a Hudson can't handle it, they're paying him $12 million over 2 years. I hope they don't, they do the right thing because jobs are on the line.
I think Marcus Bowe is going to be a guy we're going to want to watch too.
Yes,
because he could play, and he very well might be the best backup tackle on the team. We don't even know.
He might be. Yeah, I actually would not be shocked if by halfway through the year he's like might even pass Hudson on the depth chart. We'll have to see. There's something about him. Number one, it's his feet. He's got such good feet that he's the kind of guy that if you want to play somebody at left tackle, he can probably do it, even though he didn't do that at Purdue.
Sure.
So we'll have to see. So again, big picture. So let's think offense. Again, not much to talk about today other than the fact that, like you said, the pecking order was Wilson's. They came out and said Wilson. Though I can't find that in the transcript. Everyone said he was the number 1 quarterback.
Yeah, I actually heard it. Where Dave Ball said Wilson is the starter.
Where did he say that? Because I couldn't find it.
Was it
later? Early?
I heard it on Sirius XM. I ran out to get a new do on the during lunch.
Was it during the press conference, or was it during or before the press conference?
I'd have to go back and look because I was listening to it on the radio. So
very early in the press conference, he got a question where a reporter who I didn't recognize said, "You said that Wilson's your number 1 guy." And all the reporters were tweeting it out, but they didn't start off the press conference that way. So, and it didn't look like anything got cut off. So I don't know. So, but again, they said it. It's out there. So Russell Wilson's the number 1, but Jackson Dart got reps with a second string, and I think it was Jordan Renan said, it might have been Dan Dugan, but it was somebody who said he snuck in there for 1 first-team rep. So we are going to see that.
It seemed obvious from the comment that, and what you said earlier, I didn't want to jump in then, but now that we're talking back again real quick, and we are going to keep it tight. It'd be different if he said Wilson's going to start as the 1. He didn't say that. He said Wilson is the starter.
Oh, I thought he was okay.
So he's the starter.
Right.
And you call it however you want. It wasn't like we'll see or right now
No, it
it's
was
going to start that
definitive.
way. He is.
That's what
Then
the reporters were tweeting. Yes.
and then the question was there was no committal to who the 2 was.
None at all. There was no that question I saw and is in the transcript. That is in there. He was very non-committal on it at all. He didn't even want to touch that question.
So I think 2 is open.
Oh, there we go.
I think 2 is open based on something that you and I talked about before. I think Winston's probably going to be the 2 if the Giants don't move him in camp until the trading deadline, if anything pops up. If something pops up, I don't think the Giants are going to hesitate to pull the trigger if they still have DeVito sitting on the practice squad.
Well, Winston's value is Russell Wilson gets hurt and you still don't want to put Dart in there. And there's a real value to that. But it's almost a luxury a little bit too.
Sure.
So I don't think they're going to move him unless they got a deal, which I don't think they're going to get. Like I said, again, and I just saw an interview and somebody said, why? I think it was Ryan Dunleavy. Ryan Dunleavy was being interviewed by somebody and Ryan's correctly said, well, if somebody really wanted Jameis Winston, they would have signed him in free agency because the Giants got him dirt cheap. Kind of agree with that, but also injuries can make teams do desperate things too.
Oh, sure.
So again, it would have to be something like, and to me, a ridiculous offer for him would be like a 3rd or a 4th round pick. I've said that before.
Yeah.
And if it's anything later than that, no, I like the insurance policy. And, if Russell Wilson gets hurt and Jameis is still you're a little sketchy, you don't want him to come out against Kansas City in week 3. You got Jameis there, and Jameis can take the lumps if that's what he's an insurance policy.
And the other thing you have to think of is we've said this before. I've said it before, so I'll take responsibility. I won't pin it to you. Is that I can pull Russell Wilson and put Jameis Winston in, and next week I could put Russell Wilson back in, and it's not that big of a deal. If I put Jackson Dart in, other than just absolute cleanup time, garbage time, if I put Jackson Dart in the middle of the game, you can't. You will.
You could, but it's not a good look.
Well, let's put it this way.
Yeah.
Is it allowed? Sure.
Yes.
Have you absolutely torpedoed your job as the head coach? Yes. Have you potentially torpedoed his career? Possibly. And you certainly undermined him with the rest of the team. So once you do that, you've basically said, this is our guy, and that's why you drafted him. Mm-hmm. You just got to go with it from there. It's what the Giants did with Eli, with Kurt Warner. After the first couple of games, the Giants could have gone like, oh shit, we should put Kurt Warner back in because let's just finish the season. You can't. Then you've killed Eli Manning. You let him go. He had a 0.0 quarterback rating against the Baltimore Ravens, and he still kept them going.
Right.
Once you do it, he's in. And that's why I think he's probably going to be 3rd string to start the season.
Yeah, and I just real quick with Andrew here. And I don't know if you saw, John and I talked about Kubis very recently, and I think one of our recent
the
shows,
breakdown.
That we're very high on him. And there was somebody on BBI, it was Bitey Max, who said, I don't have many sources, but I have 2. And when they agree, they're usually spot on. And he said the Giants really like Kubis. But moving forward, pay attention to the pecking order day by day.
Yes.
There's 2 things that are there's more than that, but there's really 2 things you really get out of these training camp practices. Number one, you want to, at the end of the day, you go, wow, we got out of that with no injuries. You want to be like, no injuries, no injuries, no injuries. Number 2, you really want to look at the pecking order. Who's starting, who's splitting snaps, even who's come from 3rd team to 2nd team, things like that.
Sure.
Really pay attention to that stuff. So Kubis, as far as everything I saw today, didn't get any 1st team snaps, but Evan Neal did. Evan Neal was splitting 1st team snaps. That's pretty significant. So John and I were wondering a show or 2 ago, we were wondering maybe Kubis could get the job ahead of Neal. But if they're giving Neal 1st team snaps as of, again, July 23rd, it's early. Right now, Neal seems to be ahead of Kubis right now, at least in the pecking order, because he was on the field with when Van Roten wasn't, not Kubis, and Kubis was playing right guard in the OTAs. That doesn't mean Kubis doesn't have a chance to develop and be a really good player for them. But right now, it's interesting to me that Neal was given those reps
And
today.
and I would keep an eye on it. Again, no inside information, but there was talk of this last year, and it seems like it's a pretty legit thing. Keep an eye on Kubis as a potential center down the road. So if
Hmm.
he gets any time at center during camp this year, if you hear, hey, Kubis was actually in playing center with the third team or the second team, that's significant because the
Hmm.
Giants have multiple guys on the team right now that play center. You got
Right.
Van Roten can play center. You got Schlotman can play center. Stinney can play center. You've got, and that's not even counting JMS. So if you get Kubis some time at center, that means the Giants are kind of thinking we want to find a spot for this guy, regardless of just we don't want him just to be a backup guard. He has a future here.
He was the
But
one
he
snapping on that play button.
that would be pretty funny. That would be really
No,
funny if he was. That
no.
would have been like I really set
But that's
myself.
the kind of thing that would happen though if they do. I mean, he's got to learn how to snap. So I
So
don't
we
think
were
he'll be the center, the backup center this year. But you're
no,
right.
no, no, no. But I think
It's a
it's
good sign for
future.
him if
Yes.
they're playing him at a. But again, I don't want to. For those who are joining us and those who may have come in late, because I see more people come in. The big story to me today, other than the pecking order stuff with Neil and Cordell Flott and Tay Banks, was
That's a big
the
one.
number of people that came back and practiced after sitting out in the OTAs. Only 3 players are not practicing right now, and only one of them really is a player that is significant for the Giants this year, and that's Andrew Thomas. So it's a big deal that Malik Neighbors was out there. We should not underrate the fact that Malik Neighbors is back out there and he was making plays today. We should not underrate the fact that Runyon was out there, that Darius Alexander was out there, that all these Cam Scadaboo. We still don't know why Cam Scadaboo wasn't practicing.
Yeah, I know. That's
But
the
he looked sharp out there. Also, Theo Johnson looked pretty good in the few highlights that I saw today, and it looks like all the quarterbacks are looking to him and the other tight ends. Fedoni caught a touchdown pass today.
So that's a question I wanted to ask you, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned a bunch of names. There was a name that I did not see anybody talk about, and that's Jalen Hyatt. I did not hear one thing about Jalen Hyatt today.
Right, there was anything, and again, it's red zone stuff too. So
That's a good point. That's a
Jalen
good point.
Hyatt's not really the guy, but you're right. So today, but we didn't hear anything about Darius Slayton either, too. So the wide receivers, we heard little Jordan Humphrey caught a touchdown pass. It was with the receivers. So it was Malik caught 2. Though Connor Hughes was saying
Wandell
3.
had it. Yeah,
Wandell had 1. I'm trying to think. I don't think we've heard any. I don't think a lot of wide receivers. That's what I was saying. There, a lot of the reporters were saying the offense was a little bit sloppy. Some attributed it to being just the red zone. Some were saying that they were a little rusty out there. So we'll see.
I think did Scadaboo have 2? I think Dart hit him for 1 touchdown earlier, and I think he got the one from Wilson.
I know Tyrone Tracy had 2. I thought Scadaboo had 1 from Winston. He might have. Again, it's one of these things where they'll report the 11-on-11s more than the 7-on-7s, and I don't take. And I also don't put a lot of stock on the 7. Oh,
and it wasn't the 7. It wasn't the 7-on-7s.
Scadaboo caught a 7-on-7 touchdown pass from Jackson Dart. But it was a play what I noticed that Jackson held the ball way too long. He never would have gotten that.
Oh, yeah. No.
So you're right. He caught.
And he went way to the side. Yeah.
The good news in this is this. Again, Cam Scadaboo didn't practice that much in the OTAs. He came out in his first practice and he caught a bunch of passes today. And he looked good at doing it. The highlights I saw him catching, like you and I talked about since the draft, very, very, very natural catching the football. All hands, snags it, turns up the field quickly. That's what I like. I don't like a running back that just catches it and, gathers himself and then he gets tackled. But it was like, bam, bam, up the field. You're going to try to tackle me. I'm going to run you over kind of thing. I was really impressed, even though it was a non-contact OTA, the way he caught that touchdown pass from Winston. It was like, because of how quickly he turned up the field. That's fantastic. If they can take advantage of that, because he'll break if a corner comes up, if a 180-pound corner comes up to try to tackle Cam Scadaboo, he's going to run him over. So,
yeah, absolutely. Did you see the real quick? Because I know we wanted to keep it very tight.
Yeah.
Did you see the exchange?
And this is correct, by the way, SPP Williams. Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. Good. Adebo looked really sharp on that play. Sorry.
No, that's fine. So there was an exchange about 2 days before camp on X. And first it was Kayvon showing the MMA training that he had been doing. I don't know if you saw that. Where
No, I
he
did not see that.
Okay, it's very interesting. I don't know necessarily how it always applies to the people, but these guys really like to include that stuff. And there is, I think it does a lot for like the
Mhm.
wrestling aspect for like offensive linemen. But he was doing this thing where he'd get down if he was going to go for like I don't know how familiar you are with MMA, but if you were going to go for a single leg takedown, you sometimes drop to a knee to grab the guy's leg, and
Mhm.
so Kayvon would run around, you drop to a knee, boom, get back up, drop to a knee, get back up. Illuminor commented back on that and kind of like basically we'll see you at camp, and that's not good. That was a weak ass attempt. And then uh Thibodeau came back at him something like, we'll see fat boy or something like that. It was
Yeah.
pretty funny to see it. The reason I bring it up is, did you see the drill? And again, this is how stupid that you have to start with day one. I'm
Mhm.
going to talk about a drill of bags on the ground. Did you see the drill where the linebackers, the edge guys, so it was Carter, Thibodeau, and
For the
Burns
real
were
low.
running, they were running the bags.
Yeah.
And what I thought was very interesting is, of those guys, in the few that I saw, Thibodeau looked amazingly agile, more so than I've seen him in the first couple of years. He looked way more flexible. He did not kick the bags at all. He's a bigger dude. He's bigger than Carter. When you see the two of them,
Right.
he's mass is bigger. He picked up his feet. He made it through. He got out of there. Carter actually kicked one of the bags going through. The other thing I noticed about Carter, and I'm big on Carter, I think he's going to be amazing. He's a little thinner from the waist down. His leg wise are thinner than both Burns and Thibodeau. So I don't think guys should just expect he's going to come in and just overrun guys. He's going to beat guys with his agility, with his bendability, and his speed. He's not going to overpower guys in the beginning.
I've seen both comments that people say don't underestimate his power, but I've also seen current Giants players saying they can't wait to see what he does when the pads are on, if he's got that power game to him. People have said don't sleep on him not being able to bull rush somebody. We'll see.
We'll
We'll
see.
see.
Sure.
Most people that have seen him practice, they're almost like blown away to the point that they don't want to jinx it. I'm almost tempted to say Kayvon's going to be my sort of breakout player this year
I'm
but
wondering.
I don't want to jinx that too. But part of the is because look, this is a bit of a wake up call for him. Brian Burns isn't going anywhere,
Right.
and they just drafted Abdul Carter, and there's one more year left on Thibodeau's contract. He better, and he's going to have a lot of people around him now that they can't focus on him. And I was really surprised when I did my offseason article and looked at the Giants' success rate rushing the passer. And again, they were top 10 in the league in sacks. I didn't realize that. And then when I look at their win rate, we rushed the passer better than you think we did. Again, without having leads in games, and the other team not even having to do that much risky stuff because they knew the Giants weren't going to score more than 17 points a game. I mean, if we got 17 points a game, it was like we were like celebrating. So
Like,
when you like
points are
that,
falling out of the sky.
you don't have to take chances. So I hate the phrase complementary football, but when your offense doesn't move the ball, it does affect the defense. So I'm not worried about the rushing the passer. I want them to stop the
Did you
run.
see that? Did you see that Carter was also playing off the ball?
Today?
Yes,
No, I did not see that.
there was a video of him he was lined up more off the ball and in the middle, off to the right of the. I don't know who was inside of him. I want to say that it was McFadden at that time, but don't quote me on that. I was more
Mhm.
focused on the Carter was the off the ball backer next to him.
Mhm.
But yeah, so you were literally seeing a quick, and then the videos from a distance. I clearly Giants were practicing this a little further away for people not to be able to see that really that closely.
Right.
But if you can have those, and we talked about this, right? This is the biggest thing. If you can get Carter on the field with Burns and Thibodeau
And
without
Dexter.
without sacrificing the bulk in the middle of the line, which means he has to play one of the
Right.
other linebacker spots, that is bonus if the Giants can do that.
Yeah. And again, we're going to have to remember that when the offense has troubles this summer, we kind of want it too, because we don't want the defense should be better. The Giants defense should be better than the Giants offense.
Sure.
So if they're not, it's
That's a
a little bit of a red flag. So again, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing. You have to look at, so you do kind of want heat on the quarterback a great deal. So we'll see. So answer a few questions or comments and maybe wrap this up because I'd
Yeah,
like to keep
we
these
want to keep it
short. I'd like
tight.
people to
Yeah.
start tuning in to get our summaries. But it was a good day. My summary, I want to say my summary, and then we'll answer some questions. I'd like to hear your summary. My summary was good day because no injuries, number one. Great day because so many players, minus Andrew Thomas, came back. I wish Andrew was there. And so that was really good. And then, they're just the first day they're getting into the flow of things, and we'll see what the next few days bring. What really gets real is when they put on the pads. That's what I'm curious. I'm dying to see Cam Scadaboo run the football, and the new another year of Tyrone Tracy under as a veteran, seeing how he does. Then to see a ball, the ball security issue more resolved and things like that. And then, like when they open it up, like you said, is Jalen Hyatt going to start making some plays down the field when they're back off the red zone? Are we going to see some deep throws? And that's what I'm very curious about. But I don't know if you had any other general picture.
For me, really, I want to see the line combinations on the O-line. I want to see who's in the meantime of Thomas, and how long Thomas is out does bother me. So I want to see who's playing left tackle, who comes in after Hudson, who's the guy that they kind of put in, and that's a big deal to see how the Giants are feeling about that. And
not
then
Azuto, please don't put us.
No, and you know what? I think Rizzuto, unfortunately, I think the Giants sealed his fate back in 2022 when he hurt his neck and they played him for a while. I think from there it went downhill. The corner too is super important. You brought it up, and one thing I'll say, Cordell Flott can play the pass very well. What he lacks is physicality. He's a very thin dude, and he gets injured. He's been injured off and on. He has innate ball skills. You need Banks to win, right? We need Deontay Banks to win. I mean, you drafted him in the first round. He's got to win. But I want Flott to push him because at different points, you're going to be playing, Adebo, Banks, and Flott at the same time. You're going to. Andre Phillips, we didn't even hear a word about him yet. That guy, I think we know, is set at slot corner. So that's what I want to look at. And then it's the wide receivers, because we seem pretty confident that the three at the top are obvious. Neighbors, Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, those three are set. Who is four? Is it Hyatt? Probably, but he hasn't shown a damn thing yet. If he doesn't show anything in camp, one of these undrafted free agents could very easily move their way into this spot. That's going to be wide open at that point. And that's really what I want to see there. The base defense question that someone else brought up. Yeah. Optimus. That's another good thing, because Eric has pounded the table on that one. And I've said it too. You can't play just two defensive tackles and then three lighter guys, whether two lighter and then one more on Carter in the middle. You're going too light, and teams are just going to run the crap out of you. They've got to have three actual defensive linemen on the field.
Yeah, Darren, it's a great question. They don't let me know ahead of time. Usually how it goes is the first week of camp is pretty light in the sense that they don't do a lot of that. So I don't think they'll have pads on this week is my guess. Don't quote me on that. I'm guessing it'll be next week, and they'll generally mention it in the press conference. The reporters will say, what day is one of those days. It was easier in the old days, again, because they had 2-a-day practices, and always one of those 2 practices was in pads. That's how much this has changed. I don't know how they develop players anymore with this, because especially linemen. And I think that I counted them up a couple of years ago, and I don't think it's changed. There's only like 10 padded practices. And I might be off by two, maybe it's 12, but it's not. It's like, oh my God, how do you even? And there's not that many snaps in practice when you first team, second team, third team. And how does anyone get back? I don't know how they develop these players anymore.
And I apologize for laughing while you were doing that. The only reason I'm laughing is I got a text from I play in a fantasy football league with a shit ton of guys. A lot of them I've actually never met in person, but we do it through DraftKings. So it's you have different teams. You pick different players each week. If you're familiar with that whole thing. Anyway, I had shared with these guys that we interviewed Phil Simms, and one of the guys got back to me. He goes, "As a Broncos fan, you could fuck off." He goes, "But that was a really good interview." So that got my attention. I was like, "Oh, that's funny." So, and if you haven't, by the way, if you haven't, check out that interview with Phil Simms. He gave some stuff, and the way it went. And Eric and I think we're our own biggest critics. After we always go, God, we should have brought.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do it in a natural conversation. If you've ever had a natural conversation with somebody, and then later you go, oh man, why didn't I bring that up? There was no open spot to push something in, because I personally want the guests to feel comfortable with whatever they're doing, and we kind of just mold and go with it. I mean, I
Right.
asked them a couple of questions that very easily could, and that's why I said you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but you just have to get a feel for it, and I think we do a pretty good job with it. That's why
Well,
they come
I
on with
think
us.
because he felt comfortable, he did reveal
He
quite a
did a
bit.
little
There,
more than I was
there were a
expecting.
lot of
Yeah.
things in there, and there were things that he definitely hinted at. That the only thing I wish we'd said it was that there's a number of things that he revealed, but the one that we're talking about, if you guys haven't seen it, was he was saying that there was an individual that was pushing for him not to be the starter even before training camp in 1983, and he said, I'm not going to name names. And so we were immediately, because I thought at the time, and I may be mistaken, I gotta go back and rewatch it. I thought he was saying someone other than Bill. Because then he wasn't sort of throwing Bill under the bus in that answer, but like, who else could it be? And so John and I were thinking, was it the general manager? Was it one of the owners? And, but we should have said, you're not talking about Bill here, are you? And just put him on the spot a little bit there. I wish we'd done that.
There's two. Yeah, I'm looking back on it, because I've been thinking it over too, as I see what different people, and then we're really going to tie it up, because we blew past the time we said we were going to. Looking back on it, the way he said it, you can take it one of two ways. The first way is, all the other coaches wanted me to be the starter. The one guy wasn't going to let it, and that could be Parcells.
Yes, and that would make sense, but I thought that's what he was.
The way that he said the other thing about Parcells came to me and said, "You're my guy.
Right.
I'm going to have my guys." So
Well, no, even before that, I thought he was kind of clouding it that it was. Anyway, I don't know.
He didn't there, but it later made it seem like that. So I'm going to say this: Larry and PA, the BBI Giants historian guy, knows his shit. He brought up something that I thought was kind of interesting.
He wants to write his book.
The tight that too. The tight relationship between Parcells and Tim Mara. And I'm beginning to think that Tim Mara was the guy that influenced the decision, whether Parcells was the reason and it was through from Tim Mara, that was kind of like, because Wellington and George Young, it sounds like in other ways, were the ones who blocked Phil Simms from being traded. So if that's the case, then I think Tim Mara was the guy with Parcells.
Didn't you get the sense when he told us that he was annoyed with whoever he was talking about? But he didn't seem to be annoyed with Parcells.
I couldn't tell. What he said was, and we gave him a lot of credit for overcoming. He didn't really clear up whether or not Bill was by proxy the person, but Bill is the guy who told them. That was the thing he told us. Bill brought him in and said, "I'm going with Scott." And Phil said, "I already knew what he was going to be telling me." And I told him, "Trade me." And that's when so it's possible that maybe we misread the tea leaves, and that it really was Bill, because he was trying to get away from Ray Perkins. It's putting his own stamp, but ultimately said, when the offseason, and let's be honest, Phil brought it up, you brought it up, Larry brought it up in the previous show, Bill was on his way out if they could have got somebody else. We kind of forget that when we think of the glory.
Oh yeah.
But he was within one guy just going yes.
Yeah.
That he would have been out of
Imagine how history would have changed. The one thing I learned on the BBI today that I didn't know, and I'm embarrassed to say that I didn't know, or maybe I knew and have forgotten. I don't know. Maybe it's too much beer. I don't know. But Arnie Fez, who's a wealth of knowledge on the website, I didn't know that Bill Belichick was banging one of the married secretaries in the state, and that's why George Young. I didn't know that.
And I knew that. So when he goes, "I'm surprised you didn't know that, John." I was thinking, wait, no, I did know that.
I didn't know it. If you want to blame anyone, I didn't know.
But I've always tied.
That would have been a great question for Phil. Hey, tell us about the.
But where I was, I didn't get the warm fuzzies. I didn't get the warm fuzzies from Phil about Bill Belichick. The brief little bit that we brought up about him, I didn't get that at all. The one thing I didn't know, though, that I thought I was right about was that Parcells delayed his decision long enough so that Belichick would go to not replace him. And in reality, it sounds like no matter what was going to happen, George Young had no intention of
Yes,
making
that's what
Bill
I took
Belichick
away
that guy.
from that. That's what I took away from the revelations today was George. And I had heard that before that George, I knew that George was no fan of Bill Belichick. I didn't know the reason why. So I knew, I had heard that. I shouldn't say I knew. I had heard multiple times or read or whatever that George Young did not want Bill Belichick to be the head coach of the New York Giants. I just always assumed that. I just didn't know it was because of some of the thing I've learned in the last year about Bill Belichick is the guy's a horn dog or whatever,
Oh my
or whatever you
God!
want to call him.
Right?
Jesus Christ! So I had to Google. The woman that they named her that he was messing around with, and damn Bill.
Well, maybe now you start to question, right? Like now we're going way over the off topic.
Yeah, I know.
Now you start to question how much of that dynasty was Tom Brady. How much of that dynasty was Tom Brady?
But I know what you're saying. But remember what Bill did here too. Again, the Super Bowl.
But he didn't do it without Bill.
Yeah,
he
but
didn't
the
do it
Super
without
Bowl,
Big Bill.
like for instance, the Super Bowl 25 defensive plan is Bill
Sure.
Belichick's, and is in the Canton because of Bill Belichick. So, look, every Giant player you and I have interviewed on the defensive side have said nothing but great things.
Right,
about
they loved him.
Bill,
They loved him.
Belichick.
They
So I have people in my life that don't like him because they don't like his personality. This goes, because the way he interviewed. When they interview him, he sounds like he doesn't even want to be there. Like my mother hates him. She can't stand him. Now I'm sure if I talked to her about with all this other stuff, she'd be like, she'd be doubly down on him. But he's a great coach. And unfortunately, I think what's going to happen is exactly what you just said. There are going to be people that are going to now question.
I got to share.
Question what he, was he really behind it? Yeah. Wait a minute. Is this true?
Well, let's be honest. Belichick's defenses were known for 3 and out. So
yeah.
There you go. You know what
We need to get the sound effects back on this on our thing.
Saying.
We need the sound effects.
Oh,
all right.
Man.
All right, we're going off the rails here. We probably should wrap this up. We'll have a Inside BBI After Dark episode some night talking about the sword. We didn't even get into Jim Fossil. So apparently
which apparently that and a couple of boats really were so I don't know what our plan is for tomorrow, Eric. You and I will have to decide. I think
we should try. I don't know if we can do it every day. I think we should try to do regular training camp updates, but
even
shorter than that.
You got to fit it in at a certain time because I am going to the premiere of Fantastic Four tomorrow night. So I will be at the Fantastic Four. So I'll be watching that tomorrow night. We're taking a couple of the kids to that. So but I can do it earlier. I can arrange. I can mess with my
Your
time.
dedication is disappointing. You're not all in. You're not.
Dude, I'm all in.
Smart, tough, and dependable.
We could do it. Well, okay. Tough went a long time ago after the second neck surgery. That went right out the window. But yeah. So but I think if we want to do and I won't hold you to this. We can talk offline, but I can do anywhere from like 4, 5, whatever. We can do something, or I can do in the middle of the day if you want to.
No one wants to hear
work it out.
Yeah,
but I want to go to that, and so we got some other stuff, and I'm going to say I'll let people know. Don't count on this per se, but I am trying really hard. Phil Simms made me think of something last night when he was talking, and it was talking about the relationship after I questioned about the San Francisco piece, and then he talked about Joe Montana. He talked about Joe Montana's son. I actually found Joe Montana's son online. I actually reached out to him, and I'm trying really hard because I'd like to bring Joe Montana on the show to discuss. The 49ers and Giants are forever intertwined in the 80s. There is no way you can talk about any of the Super Bowls for the most part that the 49ers were involved in that either they didn't go through the Giants or have to battle their way through, or the Giants didn't go through the 49ers on their way to whatever happened later.
This is like a Knicks fan wanting to have Michael Jordan come on the show. I agree. It would be a great get.
Backflips if I got Joe Montana. Don't you dare do that. That is son of a...
I just remember one quick story. I remember I was in a Giants bar in DC during the game with the one that LT got injured in and out in the 49ers. They intentionally hurt him. Remember, they
89.
carted him off. It was 80. Was it 89?
89 because
89.
he played against the Raiders with the cracked ankle
Yeah,
at the end of the season.
and I was in a bar, and there were a couple of girls behind us, and they showed a close up of Joe Montana, and they were going, "Oh, look at his eyes! Isn't he gorgeous?" I'm like, "Get away from me! I don't want to hear this crap. This is football. This is Giants. I don't want to hear about Joe Montana's beautiful eyes. Get away from me." So anyway, that's how
it's a different time,
Yes.
Eric. Be more comfortable now. It's all fine. Gorgeous quarterback.
Be comfortable in your own sexuality, Eric. Yes. All right. On that note, I'm out. I'm
subscribe, all that good stuff. We will be back tomorrow. We appreciate everything. And check out the Phil Simms interview. It was awesome. We'll catch you again real soon.